The red-line torpedo barb, popularly known as Miss Kerala, has always fascinated me. This pretty fish is found in the waters of the west-flowing rivers of Kerala and Karnataka. The landscape here is a mix of home gardens in wet evergreen and riverine forests. The river banks are enveloped by agricultural fields and plantations. I set out to meet with the locals who live and use the rivers to understand just what is at stake and the ground realities of protecting Denise and her friends.
So this river has a lot of diversity, and some species are endemic to just this system. There are some species which you find also in other rivers that arise from Western Ghats itself, but there are some species that have been identified by experts which are exclusive only to this particular stream. So the fact that these fishes were found, these fishes that were normally found in fast-flowing waters, their presence here indicated that the e-flow was also intact, which was such a relief, as well as which was also again another source of excitement for us. And because there were all these talks going on about having check dams and building newer dams and all that, so we were very worried about what the future would be.
If there is fish in the water, we will know whether it is contaminated or not. Fish will not be found in contaminated water. We used to put fish in our newly made wells in the olden days to check for the potability of water. In other words, fish were like canaries in the coal mine. Four panchayats depend on this river for drinking water. Dynamite fishing is rampant and is very bad for the river. If this doesn't happen, then this river will be saved. And sand mining. It is something I used to do earlier, but I realized it is bad for us and for the river. I have done sand mining myself for the last 4 years. Our eyes and ears get affected by sand mining, so I am saying this from my personal experience. People living close to the river dump waste and plastic along the river bank. Even though the local authorities remove this waste, what we are doing is not right. When people come for bath, they also throw household waste covered in plastics into the river. And this is also very bad.
It seems like the river is under a lot of pressure from the humans living along it. Nibha took me to meet a passionate farmer, Ravi Uni, who has been documenting the river and its wildlife.
During my childhood, we used to see plenty of otters. Plenty of otters we used to see. At that time, fish used to be plenty. Then otter populations started coming down. We never used to see for a long period. Then again, it started picking up. We see a group of about 10 to 12 individuals with pups. Even this year I've seen.
Because the presence of otters meant that the river was in a relatively good condition, and the fact that they reappeared meant that something brought them back. So probably the systems were conducive for their survival, and they were not just surviving, they were also thriving.
I move on to another part of the Western Ghats. Here, the landscape has changed drastically over the last 50 years, with the riverine forests replaced by palm oil plantations. A few kilometers upstream of the river, I come to a more natural habitat. This place is beautiful. Giant squirrels, hornbills, and the rare Malabar trogon greet me. The river has itself plenty of native fish, from cichlids to haludaria and dockentia, that nibble at my feet. However, I hear that the trade in Miss Kerala is alive in this stretch of the river.
First time, I caught around 15 individuals using a large cast net and then dropped it into a well. As soon as I did that, the fish swam between the rocks and eventually died. Then it became a challenge for me, so I persisted with it and caught hold of another without damaging the scales. I tried it several times. Then when I caught around 20 fishes, 2 or 3 died. But eventually when I caught 100, I would only lose one. Then I used to sell it to an exporter, Mr. Reepen from Ernakulam.
The locals recognize the problems faced by the rivers and are eager to protect the health of the river, and with it, the pride, Denise and her friends.
We use weedicides near the river. These chemicals seep into the river, and it is very likely that the pesticides affects the river, its fish, and other small organisms like insects. People are doing this consciously and unconsciously. I feel paying attention and having control over such threats and changing this practice can expand our lifestyle. Since childhood, we have spent time in the river, and I feel sad when I see how people treat the river today. I think the reason is people who visit the river today don't have the same pleasant experiences and connect like I had in my childhood.
Of course, it is a beautiful fish. The colors are vibrant and very nice to look at. Yes, we need to take care of this for future generations.
I would say that outreach program should go to the schools, meet the teachers or meet the management and educate the children so that children will be fascinated with Miss Kerala. And it can percolate upwards also. There are a lot of people who depend on for their livelihood on the river, and there are a lot of youngsters who can be involved in it. That's what I said. Or form a committee, panchayat level, meet the people, ask them to form a committee, and people also should have a stake in it.
So when we did our fish diversity study, the most notable was the presence of Denisoni, or the Miss Kerala fish. And the locals could relate with it quite easily because it was quite normally, it was seen very commonly when people used to get into the water to bathe and all that. It was very easily seen, and it's a very pretty fish, so people took notice of it. And also when we were showcasing this to the school group, they also realized, they also recognized this fish more easily because of its distinct coloration. So Denisoni has the potential of becoming sort of like an ambassador species representing the not just the fish diversity but also the entire river system.
The attitude of the locals and the return of the otters to the river are encouraging signs. It is clear that the best way to activate conservation is to empower the locals. We have devised a threefold strategy to enable such action. First, to identify stretches of rivers and communities willing to conserve the stretches. Second, to identify and build capacity in local river conservators in each of these stretches. Third, to conduct awareness programs along all of the rivers that are home to the denizens' barb. With the efforts of Shoal and Zoo Outreach Organization, Denise and her friends and the people who are dependent on the life-giving waters of the Western Ghats have a fighting chance. We can achieve this only with your help and support.